Hello and welcome back to the Fixture by WICC. I'm your host, Meg Linehan. I'm a staff writer covering the NWSL and US Women's National Team at The Athletic. Now, while Europe got some time back with the national teams, we still had a weekend full of NWSL action here for the fall series in the United States. It's also the perfect time to give you a look at some of the upcoming talent that we're going to be watching here in the league. Now, while we might not have had women's Super League games to watch this weekend, we're still going to talk some transfers, and then I've got all the news that you need to know, including some major news out of Utah again. So let's get started. Okay, so on Saturday, the Orlando Pride took the field for the first time in 343 days and had some real fight in them against the North Carolina Courage, battling it out for a 0-0 draw to start their fall series campaign. Obviously, this isn't the Courage that we're actually quite used to, but the Pride still have 12 players out on loan this fall and have made a ton of short-term signings to get them through this fall series. One player the Pride knew that they could count on, goalkeeper Ashlyn Harris, who came up with a tremendous reaction kick save against Dabinia, keeping her off the score sheet that otherwise would have absolutely been a goal. Now on Sunday, we got goals galore. First, Chicago Red Stars storming their way to a 4-1 win over Sky Blue FC at their home stadium. Killia Watt scored a brace, with Zoe Goralski and Vanessa DiBernardo rounding out the goals with one each. Sky Blue FC really did start out strong with Ifeoma Onumanu kicking off the goal scoring for them, but they had to make a substitution at the half after Didi Haracic let in 3, bringing on Kaylin Sheridan for the second half. The Red Stars leaned into quick counterattacks and trying balls over the top, and Sky Blue just couldn't come up with the right answers across their back line, especially against Killia Watt. Finally, Portland Thorns FC returned home to Providence Park. We got some great fresh air coming in over the west after these wildfires, and they were able to host Utah Royals FC. Now they got to celebrate that actual game in their home stadium with a giant 3-0 win over Utah. Simone Charlie kicked off things in the first half with her goal, then Sophia Smith made her debut for Portland Thorns FC, their #1 draft pick in 2020, and then pretty much immediately scored her debut goal. Lindsey Horan wrapped things up, earning her own reward off the high press, closing in on Utah goalkeeper Abby Smith. Abby Smith tries to clear, Lindsey Horan sends it right back into the goal to make it 3-0. Becky Sauerbrunn also made her Providence Park debut for the Thorns, returning from an injury that she picked up during the NWSL Challenge Cup. Now, we still can't get enough NWSL right now, so keep an eye out for our NWSL quiz that will help tide you over until this weekend's games. With players out on loans or transfers or just opting out from the NWSL Fall Series entirely, that means that we're getting a lot of looks at talented players that we might not otherwise have seen earn this many minutes, or we're also getting looks at players that we already know and love in new roles or with new responsibilities. But that said, let's talk about 5 players that you should be watching from 5 different teams for the rest of this NWSL Fall Series. So let's start with Carrie Lawrence from the Orlando Pride, 23-year-old defender who had a breakout performance in the 0-0 draw against the Courage on Saturday. So she had one of the best looks on goal during this game, plus she came up with a huge goal line clearance for this team to keep it the scoreless draw. So Lawrence was signed as a supplemental player back in January, and obviously they thought that they were actually going to use her during the Challenge Cup, but we did not actually get to see her play until the Pride's first game, and she made a huge, huge impression. You might know Jennifer Cujo's name from the NWSL Challenge Cup, but she's one to watch in this fall series because she's going to have a lot more asked of her, especially in Sky Blue FC's midfield. Holding midfielder McCall Zerboni is out with an injury that she sustained during Challenge Cup, so Sky Blue is really going to need Cujo to step up and lead the way and show that she can also serve up balls for this attacking front line at Sky Blue FC. Players like Onumanu, Midge Purse, Mal Pugh if she's on the field. So keep an eye on Cujo. All right, for Chicago Red Stars, Zoe Goralski could have picked up a PK call on Sunday, but instead got to actually enjoy her first goal during the run of play at her home stadium there in Chicago. 25 years old, a product of Naperville, Illinois. Before that, UCLA, a very dominant NCAA program, and she finally is earning some NWSL minutes after doing some time with the Red Stars reserve squad. The 4-2-3-1 was clicking for Chicago on Sunday. Kowalski looked extremely solid alongside more established players like a Vanessa DiBernardo, like a Kealia Watt, and also on the opposite wing from another up-and-coming NWSL talent in Sarah Lubert. Lauren Millay spent her layoff during the shutdown training alongside Dabinia, and it is paying off for the North Carolina Courage. Now, she created the most chances for North Carolina during that 0-0 draw on Saturday, but she also won 7 out of the 8 duels that she went up for during her time on the field, plus added 4 recoveries. That's exactly the type of player that North Carolina loves, and it's especially promising considering that she's only 23 years old. All right, now finally, maybe it is cheating a little bit to put the #1 overall draft pick on a list of players to watch, but we did finally get to see Sophia Smith make her debut in a Thorns kit on Sunday. And what an impressive debut it was over her 21 minutes, immediate goal, 4 shots, a pair of 1 duels as well. You should always keep an eye on a top draft pick, but obviously there are national team implications for Smith's career ahead of her. But while the expectations are going to be high, she appears pretty ready to just simply set them aside and just show off her stuff. Okay, so we've all watched all of this incoming talent coming into England. The transfer window is finally closed for the FA Women's Super League, which means that we can finally get a sense of the biggest signings across this past transfer window. I've got thoughts, I'm sure you do too. I'm here to share my top 5 transfers with you. Let's go big right off the bat. Perlno Harder to Chelsea, absolutely the biggest the move of this window to me, not just financially either, but adding Harder to this team in particular shows off Emma Hayes' commitment to adding every possible piece to this roster to earn Champions League glory this season. At number 2, this might not be the biggest name coming over from America, but for my money, Rose Lavelle heading to Man City on a year-long contract is a huge one. Now, she might have gotten her giant breakout moment at the 2019 World Cup, bronze ball, all that good stuff, but for those of us who have been around, who have watched her at the NCAA level, at the NWSL, getting some time in Europe might take her game as one of the most creative players in the world to a whole new level. Sticking with Man City, they've made a lot of moves that we're still waiting to see them pay off, but Lucy Bronze's return from Lyon comes in at number 3 for me. Adding all that Champions League experience is definitely a boost no matter what. At number 4, Valerie Gavon's move to Everton was a huge one for the club. It shows that they can add international talent outside of this big 3 of Man City, Arsenal, and Chelsea. The French striker has already scored her first goal of the campaign in the team's 4-0 opening win over Bristol City. Now, for 5, if I were judging it based on headlines alone, obviously Alex Morgan to Spurs would be up there. But I think it's more likely for the addition of Kristen Press to Manchester United to actually make a difference. They have the defensive strength, now they're adding an experienced striker to the mix on a year-long contract. They'll get the benefits of their American striker for longer, which is absolutely a factor. 2 news items I want to catch you up on. There's more news out of Utah as the Royals match kicked off against Portland Thorns on Sunday. It turns out that the person actually leading them from the bench was not their head coach, but instead Amy LaPelbet, former U.S. Women's National Team player and assistant coach for Utah Royals instead. LaPelbet was named interim head coach of the squad after the team placed both head coach Craig Harrington and other assistant coach Louis Lancaster on administrative leave. Now, the team was not quite forthcoming with all of the details, but sources told me that Harrington was reported for inappropriate comments made to other staff, though none of his behavior, as far as these sources knew, involved players. Lancaster was put on leave for a separate incident, according to these same sources. So while LaPelbet might not have actually coached Utah Royals to glory on Sunday with that 3-0 loss, she did say after the match that her promotion to interim head coach had happened very quickly. NWSL has had an investigation open into the culture across Utah's entire organization since late August after reporting from The Athletic and other sources revealed a toxic culture. Obviously, a lot is still happening in Utah with more news probably coming. Over in Europe, a little bit better. We have a return date for the top flight league in Spain with Real Madrid and FC Barcelona on tap for the first day of games. The league will start play on October 4th, so not long at all to wait for Spain to make their return to play for 2020. So that's it for this week here at the Fixture by WICC. Thank you as always for watching. You can find me at It's Meg Linehan on Twitter and Instagram, and make sure you're following at ICC Women, those same places, so you can catch all the latest results and news from across the world. The other really great thing about at ICC Women is that they share a schedule of games every single weekend, so you always know what to watch. I use it myself sometimes as a reminder, not even gonna lie. Plus, you can always like International Champions Cup on Facebook so you never miss a video, including all of our videos right here on the Fixture by WICC. I'll see you next week.